Good morning, everybody. For those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Don Hennon. I'm the Director of Risk Management for Crane. Welcome. Thank you for coming to the seminar, the Technology and Workplace Safety Seminar. This is 2 years in the making. Sorry, we had to cancel a couple of these due to COVID. The whole world had to cancel a lot of things due to COVID, so we were just one of them. I do want to take a minute of your time to thank Amerishare, our carrier partner that's presenting this today. They've gone above and beyond. They stuck with us for 2 years. They put a lot of expense and time into this, and we really appreciate all their help on it. Before we get started on the main part of the presentation, I do want to make you aware of a new service that we're offering here at Crane now. We bought a thermographic camera. For those of you that don't know what a thermographic camera is, it's basically a camera that takes pictures of a wall. I think I'm losing the microphone. And it detects heat in the wall. So if you have a wiring problem, a fuse problem, whatever, this service is free. We're going to give you a little presentation from two of our loss control guys that got training on it. We have Brandon Putz and Eduardo Madrid from our loss control department. They're going to talk to you about the camera.
Good morning. My name is Eduardo Madrid, and I work with Don in the loss control department. Let me see. We're going to make a presentation about the infrared camera. I'm going to explain a little bit about how it works and what we can do with the camera. Okay. First, what is infrared radiation and how we use it? Really, this is the camera here. This is the camera that we have at Crane. It's a new equipment. We acquired this a year ago from a company called FLIR. There are two big brands right now in the market, but there are many, but the two biggest ones, FLIR is, I will say, the #1 brand that we have right now. There's Fluke, another company located in Washington State. It's also #2, really good equipment as well. What we do and why do we want to use the infrared camera? It's an equipment that is happening. It's being used right now to detect heat and infrared radiation in order to find anomalies, usually in your grid and your electrical panels. The way how it works is, we have this diagram over here. Every object, because there's a law called the black temperature object, the law, that says it emits heat. That heat, there's a correlation between infrared radiation and heat. What is infrared? Infrared is part of the spectrum, the wavelength spectrum. You know, every time when we receive light from the sun, 50% of that light comes in the form of infrared. About 10% is ultraviolet, and only this fragment over here, there is about 35-ish% is visible light. In reality, in the spectrum from the visible light, from light, we only perceive this segment. So infrared cannot be seen, but there's a correlation between temperature and infrared. Okay, so the more infrared, the more radiation an object emits, the more heat that we can perceive, and that's how the equipment, that's the camera, can detect that infrared and tell us an idea, an estimation about how it works. It's a very complex equipment. It's not really, it's really complex because measuring the temperature of an object requires a complex analysis on 3 different factors. When you're using infrared, you have the infrared that the equipment emits, right? You have the infrared that the object absorbs, and you have the infrared that the object reflects. So the camera has to analyze the 3 components, and we want to know not only the infrared that is emitted by the object. So this equipment performs an algorithm and a calculus measuring many elements, even the surrounding areas of the object you want to read, to give us an idea. I know you've seen images like this before, right? This purple. Well, that's fake. That's a fake picture. As I said, you can't see infrared. Nobody can see infrared. Some animals can, but the human eye is limited. So how do we see this one, and how we understand this is infrared? Well, the software from this equipment analyze the infrared and give us an idea based on a gradient of colors about how the temperature is. So we tend to associate the darker as colder and the brighter as hotter, and that's how we can interpret the image that we're seeing. But in true fashion, if you really want to see infrared, nobody can. Nobody can. You can feel it, but you can't see it. This equipment is fantastic. It's really accurate. Sometimes people ask you, what is the difference between an equipment like this that might cost you a couple $1,000s to a simple infrared gun that you can buy at Home Depot for $50? What is the difference on that? It's the sensor. This is a sensor, really big sensor, versus a very simple sensor that gives you a reading on a very particular point. Let me give you an idea how useful is this camera. When you have an infrared gun, like $50, usually you should read the numbers on the body of the camera, and you might see something like 1 to 4, which means, and sometimes those cameras have a laser so you can point out where you're reading. If it has one dot, the laser has one dot, what you're reading is for every 4 feet of distance that you can measure 1 inch in diameter. If you go back, so you widen because the beam opens like in an X form. And if you go, now your 5 feet is 1.1 inches. And you get closer. As a matter of fact, it's funny because if you get closer, because it works like this, also gets wider. So you need to understand the distance where you are located, but you are reading an inch. If you have 2 dots, you are reading only the temperature that is in between those 2 dots. Well, think about you're trying to read a breaker that is maybe ½ inch. And if you put that laser into that panel, you might be reading 2 breakers at the same time, or 3 breakers at the same time, or anything within that inch, 2 inches of diameter. So this camera has a more sensitive sensor, multiple thousands of, I want to call it pixels, trying to think about like a grid, and every dot measures 1 point in radiation, give you exactly what you see at that point. So, why do we use this one? Well, at Crane, we limit our services to the electrical grid. We're trying to, we analyze the anomalies that we might find on hot connections, failing components, and overloaded circuits. We do not open panels. It's very important for you as a service provider that we're not going to open a panel. We're going to try to read the surface of the panel and then give you an idea, a good guess, estimation about how can you address that situation, right? But the camera is very versatile. A trained person can see, for example, if a roof is damaged, water damage, a draft, any leaks, roof leaks, bearing, motors, belts, anything that emits heat with the proper training and the proper understanding what's going on, what's happening, you can see the differences. Let me give you an idea. You have a fan with a belt, and you put the camera, and then you see in the camera that the pulley on the fan is heated than the pulley on the electric motor that is powering the belt. So you can say that the bearing from that belt is failing. And you can see the radiation heat coming from that pulley to over that. So you address that bearing, things like that. You see electrical motor. If you see the heat on one end, then you can start you can infer about what may be the cause on that. For our services in our department, we limit to electrical components. And we're going to give you our best opinion, our best analysis about how what should you be doing. However, we cannot tell you exactly what it is until we remove the panel. There are limitations about liability, so we limit about services about what we see. Another thing about the services, if you have an equipment that is not running, there's nothing for us to see. So if I go to your facility to do an inspection at 4 in the morning and your machines are not working, well, I hope you had coffee because there's not much that I can do. There's nothing else to see. So let's plan about if you need the service, we can go to your facility. Let's see when is your peak, when your equipment is running, when is the best time to see it. Sometimes it's important to see things at 4 in the morning, sometimes it's not. if I want to see, let's say you have a water tank and my job is to see what is the water level of that tank, I'd rather go there at 5 in the morning when there's a differential in temperature between the water absorbing heat and I can see the difference. Actually, as a matter of fact, I can even tell you how much dirt, salt is at the bottom of the tank based on the differential because the densities of the material, the substances that it has. So at that moment, going at 4 in the morning makes sense. But if you want me to see your panels running, call me the day when you have the plant full motion. That'll be the best. So I only can see whatever is running. If it's not running, it's hard for me to see, okay? There are many other uses. You can use the camera for hunting. It's not fair, but I mean, it's true. You can be 3 in the morning and you can say, oh, it's right there. Happens, you know? And there are very many versions that you can plug a camera like this into your cell phone. And it's, I mean, it's not really sporty, but I mean, yeah, it happens. Many other uses. Biology. We used to work for companies that used to use this camera to see. We used to work with plants, and I used to work with a company that works with plants, and the grower can predict when it was the time when the plant is about to die, and therefore to reduce the price of that plant based on that observation, because they know that the plant is not going to last more than a week. So it's time to get rid of that lot. Many uses. Police use that to detect illegal operations, things like that, you know. Benefits of the electrical component. So we have Brandon Fox to see how beneficial is this equipment. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brandon Putz. I am a loss control rep, like Eduardo, at the Crane Agency. And both of us are the certified level 1 infrared thermographers. So if you are interested in this service, it'll be one of us that come out and do it. So what are some of the benefits of getting the thermographic scan done? The number one benefit you're going to get is that fire, reduction and potentially having a fire. Eduardo and I have gone to many clients, and we've seen problems on their electrical panels that could, over time, result in a fire. And when it comes to fire, preventing fire, your electrical system 19% of all commercial fires are caused by electrical issues. So it's an important service that we offer, and it's something that can also prevent you from having downtime too, right? If you have to do electrical repairs and you're in your busy season, that's not going to be something that's great for your business. So if we can get in there and we can find your hot spots, we can let you know which circuit breakers your electrician needs to see, and we can do that in your downtime, right? You're not going to have to worry about getting that electrician in there during your peak season, during your business time, your busiest time, because these things need to be repaired, and you can't, a lot of times, can't wait. But if we can get there ahead of time and let you know what the issues are, then you're not going to have to worry about that. So yeah, it's going to save you money, right? It can prevent a fire, and it's going to allow you to do the maintenance you need to do at the time you want to do it. So how do we do it? What are we doing when we go out and we do a thermographic inspection? Basically, we're looking for heat, right? What Eduardo said. We have an infrared camera that detects radiation, and it's going to tell us how hot that panel is on those particular breakers. We do have 4 different priority levels. So what we do is we take the ambient temperature. So let's say it's 72 degrees in here, and then we have different priority levels. So obviously, the hotter that panel, that breaker is, that means that it's a higher priority level, something you have to take care of sooner than later. So we start at the lowest priority level, 2 to 18 degrees. That's kind of an area where, hey, just keep an eye on it, right? We can do these thermographic inspections more than once. So if you want us to come out there, and then you want us to come out there the following year, that's not a problem. So yeah, we have 4 different priority levels, and so 2 to 18, let's just kind of keep an eye on it. If you're getting above 18 degrees, and that's 18 degrees above the ambient temperature. So if it was 72 degrees in here, and we're looking at a breaker, and it's 92 degrees, that's 20 degrees difference. That's when we're starting to look at, okay, that's a higher priority level. That's something that you should definitely follow up on by getting an electrician in there and checking out what that problem is. And I've seen them go all the way up. I mean, I was at the last one I did, and I saw, right in here, priority level 3, 40 to 50 degree difference from ambient temperature. That's high. That's a high difference in temperature for what this place was doing. So they were able to take care of it and get an electrician in there and replace that breaker before it even got up higher than that, and we're talking higher potential for a fire. We do have some parameters and restrictions to what we can do. We are limiting our inspections to circuit breaker panels. It's a service that we offer free to you. So if you are interested in having me or Eduardo come out and do one of these inspections, let your broker know, and we'll arrange it. And like Eduardo says, we will probably contact you and get the details and maybe see when the best time is so that you have a decent electrical load going, and our inspection is going to be a little bit more effective that way. Our inspections are a one-time thing. They're a snapshot in time. So if you have a plant, if you have a manufacturing facility, things are changing all the time. So we can offer you the snapshot in time, but breaker panels can go bad. Things can change, your plant can change. So just keep that in mind. It's a snapshot in time. So some things that just for our own safety that we kind of have to limit it. We can't do high voltage. Opening up those panels increases the chances of an arc flash. So nothing over 480 volts. And then things like climbing on roofs and confined spaces. Those are things that for our own safety we don't do. But as far as circuit breaker panels go, 480 volts and under, that's something that we can do. After we do our inspection, you will get a report, and the report will give you a complete analysis of every panel that we saw and any kind of issues that we saw with that panel. You will get that report, but we will go over verbally the issues that we found. Some of the clients are like, I want to take care of this immediately. They do not want to wait for the report. So any issues that I find, I just usually let you verbally know before I go out. It really depends on your facility, how large it is, on how many issues we find. But I would say, like a normal manufacturing facility, usually 2 or 3 defects is all that I find. So it's not like a really long report. The things that we find are usually limited to 2 or 3 or 4 circuit breakers that are abnormal. We do need you to sign a release before we can do it, just a thing to prevent our liability. So we'll have you sign that release before we do our inspection. And then again, we will give you a report, and the report will go over each location, and it will name the breaker, and it will show you which breaker it was and what the temperature difference was. And you can use that for your own benefit and let your electrician know. But also a lot of the insurance carriers out there really like to know that somebody was out there to do a thermographic inspection. So you can keep that report, and that's evidence that, hey, you did your due diligence on your electrical system, and you know what your issues are. Does anybody have any questions about thermographic inspections, our services, what we can do, how we can help you, and what the process is? If you have any questions, Eduardo and I are going to be here after the presentation is done, so just feel free to come up and talk to us. We'll even give you our card. And if you want this inspection service, which is free of charge, just let us know. It's not going to cost you anything, and the benefits to you can be pretty good for no money. Do you want me to introduce, or Okay. Thanks.
The world's a changing place. So that's the whole idea of the seminar today, is to make you aware of technology that can help you become more safe at your shops. So today we have with us Caitlin Masters and Ryan Anderson from Amerisure. Caitlin is your local loss control rep for Amerisure, so you may recognize her. So here's.
As Don said, I am Caitlin Masters, and I'm Crane's dedicated loss control consultant. I've been with Amerisure almost 2 years. A little bit about Amerisure is, Amerisure is the leading provider of commercial property and casualty insurance, and we've been in business for over 100 years. And the risk management team at Amerisure is leading the insurance industry with technology-based programs and applications to enhance operations and assist with controlling losses. So during this presentation, you're going to learn more about those specific technologies that have been proven to improve workplace safety. And then Ryan will talk more about afterwards, but afterwards, as you can see, we have two kind of, I guess, demos that are options to come take a look at, and Ryan will talk more on that. Ryan Anderson is our risk management expertise specialist in digital innovation, and it fits on his business card, apparently.
Thank you. I know everyone here is not an Amerisure policyholder. I promise not an Amerisure pitch today. Regardless of your carrier, these technologies are proven. I'm going to give you plenty of vendors, not only the ones that Amerisure uses. Some of these technologies we're currently not even using, but all of these are making an impact in the workplace safety across America and the world right now. Technology is improving many facets of work and the way we work, and safety is no different. This is not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination, but these 7 have been vetted. They've been around for a little bit, and we're starting to see adoption within the industries where employers are using them, employees are accepting of their use, and we're also starting to see losses being reduced by these. So that's why these 7 are being picked today. I promise you I spend a lot of time talking about attending conferences on these, so if you have other technologies you want to talk about afterwards, I'm happy to do so. But Crane's obviously already covered our last one down there, so I'm going to address these first 6. But before I hop in, I just kind of want to make you aware, I assume the fact that you all are here, your company is safety focused, you all have some basics in place, but I wanted to make it clear, I spend a lot of time talking to clients, companies, management teams about technology and the way that that can improve their safety program. However, about half of that time is talking them out of the use of technology. If your current safety program does not have the basic elements in place, I would not start here. I always say technology is going to ramp up whatever you're currently doing. If your safety program is currently a dumpster fire, it's going to ramp it up. Let's not ramp up the wrong things. However, if you have the basics in place, you have training in place, you have accountability in place, you have inspections in place, you have written programs in place, you have the good elements, basic elements in place, technology is a fantastic solution to ramp that up. Technology has been proven to go to the next, take your safety program to the next level. And one of the questions I get frequently is, which one's the best off of the list? Which one should I go for? And that is going to vary by what industry you're in. Some of these are going to be very, very applicable to your industry, but I guarantee not all 6. So it's hard to say which one is the best because some of these will apply to your industry and some will not. But the first one is wearables, and this is a very broad category. Wearables is anything an employee wears. Typically, it's a sensor or an exoskeleton. So think about your Fitbit or your Apple Watch on steroids. It can be any sensor that is tracking movement, tracking things like body temperature, pulse. Just to kind of break it down, Kinetics is one of the vendors that it's been around the longest. I was telling somebody this morning that this sounds like a negative, but it's actually a positive. It is one of the most basic wearables out there, and that's actually a good thing. All it does is monitor, it looks like a pager, put it on your waist, and all it does is monitor when you bend at the waist instead of the knees, a twisting movement. There's ergonomic movements that put you at higher risk for a lifting injury. Whenever it detects that, it buzzes. And what it's doing is training the wearer going, see what you're doing? You're bending at the waist. And it gives them that immediate feedback every single time they make an unsafe behavior. And it lets them train themselves to use better posture, better ergonomics. It also will send that to a dashboard so that management can kind of find trends. Maybe 85% of all of your unsafe behavior happens between 6 and 7 in the morning. Now, to me, that would mean nothing, but you as a management team would probably go, well, yeah, that's when they're unloading the truck, or that's when you would be able to identify things from that. So the simplicity of some of these wearables is fantastic, and I will say if you want to go wearable sensor route, I would start more basic. You will have much better adoption with employees. Then some of these track location. Employees immediately think, well, you're just trying to see if I'm working or not, and they're not going to wear it. Some of these track noise level, making sure they're not being exposed to too much noise. They don't hear that. Employees hear you're trying to track what I'm saying. They don't do that. Employees don't hear it that way. So I would start basic on these. Once you get a year or two under your belt, maybe incorporating some of these others, but some of these, they're proximity sensors. You get too close to machinery, it buzzes. Some of these, too loud of noise, air monitoring. They do a lot of very sophisticated things. The other one I'll bring up is exoskeletons. Exoskeletons have been around since the 80s, and they were terrible. They were just bulky, they didn't really work. They have come a long way in about the past 7 years. There are two leaders really three leaders in the industry right now, Autobach, HeroWear, and Levitate. They're doing so well, the size of these, the bulkiness, is very reduced. The way that it actually lifts, it is not using mechanical power, not using batteries, anything like that, that a lot of other vendors are hopping into the space. Some bigger names are hopping into the space that you're more familiar with, and their products aren't that great, just to say that. So a lot of people are trying these out and they're going, they're still crap. If you're getting the right product, these are pretty good. However, the sticker price on these is scary. So I do think the price of exoskeletons will come down, but we are seeing a lot of people with overhead exposure, whether it's that electrical installer who's just running conduit all day long overhead, or a painter who's spraying all day long overhead. Exoskeletons almost make their arms weightless. They could stay in this position 2-3 hours without getting tired. Now, once you start lifting material, the employee is still engaging their muscles. So if they're lifting something heavy overhead, an exoskeleton isn't gonna make that weightless, but just the simple act of their own arms are essentially weightless now. So you're getting more productivity, you're getting less injuries out of this using these products. And we have a small enough group today. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw your hand up. We don't have to wait till the end for that. The next one I'm gonna hit is virtual reality safety training. This is one that many of your kids, grandkids probably have a virtual reality headset at home and they're running around in it. We're finding that virtual reality safety training, one, provides new employees a safe place to fail. One of the things we're going to demo afterwards is actually virtual reality, and I'm going to put up a fall protection module. And you go in, you inspect the harness, You go inspect the lanyard, you hook up, and you go out on scaffolding, and there is a catastrophic failure of the scaffolding. It just happens every time. The question is, did you do all that correctly? Because if you do it correctly, you get to the end of it and it goes, whew, that was close. If you did it incorrectly, you go, oh, and you watch yourself fall 30 stories, and then it goes black. And it's a very impactful moment of, Mr. New Employee, this isn't a game. Had you been out on a job site and you not done that correctly, this is not a game. So it makes those impactful moments in a safe place. But we also found this is a really good way, not only for the new employee, but it's a great way to increase learner engagement and learner retention, even for people who have gone through fall protection training for the past 15 years every single year. I'm sure you all are thinking about some of your employees who would never put a virtual reality headset on. He's mad that he has to carry a flip phone. He will never use a Facebook account, and if you ever mention Facebook, you get a 20-minute rant on why that crap sucks. The guy's never gonna put it on, and that's fine. If I put one of my young guys up in the front of the room doing it, and let that guy watch him do it by watching a screen, he's engaged fully. He's sitting in the back of the room going, you're doing it wrong. Hey, you're doing it. He will criticize all day long. He's engaged the entire time. We find learner engagement, even on repetitive trainings, goes way up with virtual reality. And also something that I kind of implied there, we're also finding learner retention and engagement, especially among that younger generation, goes way up in these trainings. So we're hearing over and over, every client we go to, the younger generation just isn't sticking around in the blue-collar job. They're not sticking around in the blue-collar job. Train them the way they want to be in trade, the way that they get engaged in training, and it helps. I'm not saying it's the silver bullet and all of our labor problem goes away. However, it does help. There are multiple vendors out there. And I will say, if you're interested in these, talk to the vendors, but do not take their listed price as gospel. You will look at the price of it and go, we can't afford that. One conversation in, they've already cut their price in half. So talk to them. They are very open to negotiation. They will even create custom content for you. So I have a lot of my contractors work at a plant in Virginia, and they have a very, very complicated and complex confined space. They have created their confined space in the virtual world. So when you, Mr. Subcontractor, show up and you're going to do electrical work inside this confined space, they go, first you have to do it all in virtual reality. And you go down, you turn to the left, and you take 2 steps in confined space. That is the exact distance you will take in the real world. So you actually practice these things, you get the lay of the land before you actually hit the job and you are exposed to the hazard. You get to do it all. So you may, is now training their new employees on how to use a milkshake machine over virtual reality. So the custom content, you really can go any direction. There are limited options. However, these are a couple of vendors that provide off-the-shelf solutions. Fit for duty testing. I don't think I have to tell anyone that safety-sensitive positions, the risk goes through the roof when we start talking about intoxicated employees, whether that's drugs, alcohol. And we are all probably, hopefully, trying to do our best through drug testing programs, drug-free workplaces, things like that. But if you've been in management more than 30 days, you know they're not a silver bullet, they're not foolproof. You're still having issues with it. So there is a lot of technology coming to market pretty quickly. Some of them are device-based, and some of them are app-based. So the photo up there is a device-based one. This is one that we are about to pilot. I can't confidently say this works perfectly because we haven't piloted it yet, but this one is a device-based. It's called SoberSafe, and it would be left by a time clock, maybe at a manufacturing facility, warehouse facility. And before they actually sign in, put 2 fingers on the device. 1 finger, it is reading your fingerprint to make sure you are who you say you are. The other finger, it is actually looking for alcohol vapors that are being emitted through the skin. The vendor claims 0.02 blood alcohol content will be picked up through the skin. So you have somebody come in, they're not passing, they'll also provide you with actual breathalyzers to do a confirmation test. But you are able to make sure every day before they start working, if you want them to do it again after lunch or whenever, you could actually make sure you have no one under the influence of alcohol in your facility. The app-based, there's a couple of different vendors out there. AlertMeter is one of the bigger ones. They have an app that either goes on every employee's phone if they're remote, or you could just do a company tablet, iPad by the sign-in clock. And every employee during orientation does it 10 times, opens this app, does it 10 times. It feels like you're playing little quick games. It takes about 20 seconds, and it feels like you're playing little games that are based on reaction time. You're sitting there trying to get the dots moving back and forth, and you have to do it in the middle of the circle, and you're tapping it. Once you do it 10 times, the app's software is smart enough to figure out a baseline for you. So I have it on my phone. You can log in right now. You may have better reaction times than me. You will fail you every single time because it knows you are not Ryan Anderson. But now that we've done it 10 times, now that you have a baseline, employee shows up, he's about to sign in, start his day of work. It takes about 20 seconds. Excuse me. Takes about 20 seconds, and he will open this app, do it, and see if he can complete it. And if his reaction time is off from his baseline, he will fail. Vendor recommends let him do it one more time because he might have just been trying to have a conversation with somebody during it. Somebody might have made a loud noise. He kind of turned around, was distracted. But if he's consistently failing, he should not start work today in a safety-sensitive position. I will urge you, do not discipline for being intoxicated, because he may just not have slept last night. He may have a newborn at home, he was up all night. What this app is telling you, though, is due to his reaction times, he is not safe to work in a safety-sensitive position today. May not be drugs, may not be alcohol, but he is not safe to work today. You could always figure out how you're going to work this policy. Send them home today. You fail more than twice in 30 days, we'll send you for drug testing, something like that. You can work through the logistics on that. But excuse me. This is to be completely honest, this is a technology that we've had around. And in this labor market, nobody wants to send employees home. Hell, I can't get them to show up. Why would I send them home? That all changes the day that your state legalizes recreational marijuana use. So I'm from Virginia. We had 0 accounts, 0 policyholders using this technology. We legalized recreational marijuana use. And due to the constraints of drug testing, I can find out if you've done marijuana recently, but through a drug test, oral swab, urine, whatever it is, I cannot find out if you are currently under the influence of it. So they want to say all day, oh, I did it this weekend. It wasn't this morning. It wasn't. This will tell you, are you currently under the influence? So I have a feeling most of you are going, yeah, I have no interest in sending people home. Or if they legalize in your state, your jurisdictions, one of your locations, That is going to be such a headache for your management team that I just want you to kind of make a note on this. You probably won't implement it tomorrow, but when they legalize it, this will probably be something that you go, I remember that guy that mentioned this thing. I have no clue what it is now, but I remember there's something out there and you can look it up. VAI cameras. So this is a really fancy way. It's video artificial intelligence cameras. There are different types of this, but essentially artificial intelligence recognizes things in a video feed. So I think the most common that we've seen, has anybody ever seen the smart dash cameras? I'm not talking about the dash camera that just records whenever you hit the brakes, but dash cameras now actually read street signs. They detect other cars, they detect pedestrians. So you could actually put one of these in a vehicle and it will tell you over the past 100 miles, how many of those miles was your driver following too closely? Your telematics GPS might tell you that a driver went over the speed limit, but this can detect other cars. It'll tell you was he going faster than the pace of traffic or not. He slowed down and then went again. Did he roll through a stop sign or was that a yield sign? This reads street signs. It can do all of that. So these are actually looking at the environment, looking at hazards, and it will give feedback to the driver. A lot of these, so GPS Insight is the software company, Netrodyne is the hardware company, and then Samsara is a big name in this, and they're getting into this next thing I'm about to talk to. They actually have separate apps for the driver where it automates coaching for the driver. So you rolled through 3 stop signs this week. Friday morning, you're getting a notification to your phone saying, hey, guess what you need to work on over the next 7 days? It shows the driver the videos, so there's no, oh, I didn't actually do that. Sorry, we actually have video of you doing it. Following too closely might be your coaching tip for the next week. And it will coach these drivers tailored to how they drive. And really from a management perspective, you don't need to be looking in and seeing, well, Joey was following too close. It's, is he completing his training videos? Is he logging in and doing it? And then, is his score improving? If he's moving in the right direction, he's trained, it takes the burden of you actually having to handhold and do accountability and those things off of you. Now, if he keeps becoming a worse driver, maybe management needs to get involved. Or if he's just not doing the training, he's just blowing it all off, maybe management gets involved. But these dash cameras are no longer just, I'm gonna buy the $20 one from Best Buy, plug it in, and then that way, when I get in an accident, it can be used against me in court. These are proactive, making your drivers safer. Along the same lines, there are a lot of companies out there now that tie into your building's surveillance cameras, and they monitor whatever you want it to. So you have forklifts running in your facility, and we have a policy that says operator has to wear a seatbelt. Instead of having a manager on the floor all day long going, do you have a seatbelt on? This camera, every time it comes by, it can detect the seatbelt. We say in this section of the warehouse, you have to have safety glasses on. Does he? It identifies all that. It identifies ergonomic movements. I'm going to talk about that again in a second. It identifies maybe the forklift has a stop sign at an intersection in your warehouse. Did he blow through it? Spills on the floor that aren't being cleaned up. There are a lot of different things, and then depending on the sector you're in, you can also get ones for somebody hops your fence at night. It automatically detects that. These are not perfect, so you always need to review these, but a lot of movements that looks like somebody's shoplifting, they can detect those sorts of movements. Now, it might have been somebody adjusting a purse, something like that, but you can always, it at least gives a manager a heads up, hey, aisle 3, possible shoplifting. There are fire detection. I mean, these go very, very complex very, very quickly. And then smart equipment cameras, same sort of thing as the dash camera, but for equipment. We've seen them used on forklifts, bobcats, things like that. And it monitors how close you get to a pedestrian. And if you get too close, if it's a newer model vehicle, these cameras can actually stop the forklift, the equipment, and the operator can't proceed towards a pedestrian. Otherwise, if it's an older retrofitted piece of equipment, they'll put a very large light bar right above the operator. And that thing is so bright that when he gets close to a pedestrian, it flashes, and your immediate reaction is just to slam on the brakes. What's going on? And you are preventing those pedestrian strikes. These cameras are getting better. So they tried a few years ago to also, especially with forklifts, to prevent the warehouse racking strikes. And they said, hey, if you're getting too close, well, it was just flashing constantly. They hadn't worked out the bugs yet, but they're getting better on that. And I think realistically, within a few years, you will see that a viable option. With that being said, smart dash cameras, the price has come down significantly. They're in reach of a lot of safety-focused companies who are struggling with auto performance and auto premiums. The building surveillance systems, the price on those goes from cheap to I can't tell you how much you can spend on it. It's all about what do you want to track. If you only want to track forklift activity, not bad. If you want to train it for something custom for your facility and your industry, it's going to be very, very expensive. So those prices are a little bit all over the place. The equipment smart cameras are still expensive. So we are seeing companies use this, but it is typically warehousing that is moving chemicals that are a little higher hazard. It is not just your run-of-the-mill, I have 40 forklifts in this distribution center, I'm gonna equip all of them. But the pricing on that is a little all over the place. The next one, safety management software. I don't know how you all currently manage your safety program. If you have a one location facility, paper may still work for you. Probably doesn't work well. If you have a multi-location, if you're a contractor with job sites, these software platforms are a game changer. So when you are recording things like training, you are recording things like inspections, hazard identification, all of those, and it's on paper, you're assuming somebody's going through, manager, foreman, somebody like that is going through and looking at these to follow up and see what the issues are. And then if we're gonna do any trending and analysis, we're assuming somebody's taking that paper and doing the data entry and then crunching the numbers and running it every which way to see what trends and useful data is lying in there. It's all inputted straight into a cell phone or a tablet app. They can upload photos and relevant documentation, contracts, all that with it. And it will run all of the analysis for you behind the scenes. It will send alerts and notifications to relevant people. It might be the corporate safety director, it might be the operations officer, it might be the on-site foreman. But these are communicating both ways and not only helps with documentation from like a claims defense, legal defense, but it's also being proactive. And do you realize the third week of every single new job we start, we have 4 times as many safety infractions as the rest of the job. What's going on? And you all know, well, we're going to focus on that week of every job. It might be we have a really good shipping manager. However, we can't seem to get this one hazard controlled. train our employees, have the manager focus on that. It is bringing things to your attention instead of just, yep, they completed an inspection form, throw it in the file. These provide a lot of different services. It might just be as simple as all I want is online checklists that gets sent by email to the corporate office with photos attached. They're really cheap. It could be a full safety program with custom checklists, with contractor, subcontractor management, with notifications going out, coming in, vehicle checklist, equipment checklist. With all those pieces moving, they're a little more expensive. And then you can put QR codes on every single fire extinguisher in your facility. So your maintenance guy walks by, puts the QR code in, and it automatically brings up the checklist going extinguisher 86. And then it tells them, look at the hose, look at the pin, look at the gauge. All of those sorts of things you can get custom on. And then the most expensive is things that even run remote assistance. So we're seeing this a lot for your service repair techs. Labor market's tough. Finding skilled workers is tough. And if we're gonna be honest, when we find someone, we train them and we get them in the field immediately, and they probably don't have quite as much training as we had hoped. So they get out there and they spend a lot of time spinning their wheels going, I don't know how to fix this. I think I could figure it out. You got to call to the office and they try to talk it through, and then maybe the operations manager has to come out on one of every 8 calls, and it's just a lot of wasted efficiency. These softwares will start up a FaceTime video, and it will say, hey, connect with operations, let him look at it that way. And it will also overlay for the manufacturer of this equipment. Here's the working manual over it. And it'll actually do overlays going, you see, this is what the compressor is. This is the capacitor right there. Let me pull the cap off the capacitor. How do I do that? The manuals will actually show you, well, you pull here, unscrew this. When you overlay things in real time, it helps a new employee troubleshoot and do their job much, much quicker and efficiently. So this is another one that you can go basic for cheap, or you can do as much as you want if you have the resources. Video-based ergonomic evaluations. This is another one Caitlin's gonna demonstrate after the presentation today, but I don't know if you have any other safety nerds in the room. If you did a safety degree, if you've been to safety conferences, they'll probably talk a lot about NIOSH lifting equation, REBA, RULA. It's assessments that have been around for decades. They are proven. And they calculate the risk of a task. So you have somebody standing on their feet, working a little bit over shoulder height with something about 12 pounds for 6 hours a day. We all know, well, ergonomically, that's not ideal, but how bad is it? These assessments actually calculate that. The problem is if one of us came out, you brought a safety nerd out to actually do that calculation for your facility, I would actually stop production and go, oh, all right, now hold still. And I would measure from the floor to their hands, and then I would measure how far their hands are apart. And then I go, all right. And then when they bring their hands down, I go, stop. And then I'd measure that position. And I would eat up an entire morning measuring one person's body positions. And then I'd come back tomorrow and I go, let's do the next workstation, and you get to stop production again. Sound good? Practically in the real world, they just don't work. So they've been around forever. They just didn't get used as much as they should. Now, all we have to do is shoot a video of an employee doing a task. You record the video of them lifting, whatever it is, and we run it through the software. When the software, I don't know if you all have ever seen how they do characters for like movies nowadays, like Avatar. They have the sensors and the suits and everything. This is based off the same technology. It is always determining what That's 90 degrees at the shoulder, 45 degrees. It's measuring all those body joint angles. And it's constantly using that REBA, RULA, NIOSH. There's a couple of other equations out there that these softwares use. And it is calculating the risk of an injury. So we're seeing these things are surprisingly cheap to do, and they're surprisingly effective. Couple of reasons. One, if you are trying to prioritize what's our next safety objective, I have a couple of bucks next year in the capital improvement campaign or budget to improve workstations. Which workstation needs the most improvement? What's the most hazardous? I'm sure I could ask you right now, hey, what's the most hazardous task in your facility? You could tell me. It's not a surprise to you when we come out and go, that's hazardous. I'm like, oh crap, I didn't know. But how bad is it? Is it, yeah, somebody could get hurt, or I'm shocked that only 15 people have been hurt? This will actually give you a quantifiable score associated with that task. Not only that, it does a lot of really good graphing and breaking it down for people who aren't ergonomists or safety nerds, so that you can go to CFOs, COOs and go, this is what the data's telling me. And they don't have to rely on REBA score 6. Who knows what that means? They can actually see it interpreted in graphs. But what I think the most valuable thing is these sorts of video overlays. So all of these, I don't know if you've seen on LinkedIn, on the internet, where somebody's performing a task and they superimpose the stick figure over them. And when they have good body posture, it's all green. And then as they bend forward, the spine goes a little bit yellow, and then red, and then it comes back to yellow. It is a visual representation of risk. And I will say this is a much more effective way to do safe lifting training. So when I come out and I do safe lifting training for workers and I go, bend at your knees. Good job, go work. They probably remember that and do it for 15 minutes and then they're back into old ways. However, when we will film a video of an employee using really good form doing a task and really poorly doing a task. Where this works really well, I don't know if we have any healthcare in the room. Somebody who's transferring patients, for some reason in the healthcare industry, every nurse and a CNA goes, well, it's just a risk of the job. Back strain, shoulder injuries, that's a risk of the job. We can visually show them the risk of, yeah, it's a risk of the job, but you can make it very low risk if you are intentional about good body posture. Or you can be a train wreck and it's all red and yellow and high risk if you don't focus on good body posture. So when we start flushing it out and showing them a side-by-side comparison of how green and low hazard that same task can be compared to all red and yellows, just based on your body mechanics and how you decide to position your body, it drives home that level of risk. Just really based on how they decide to conduct themselves. And Crane's already hit the thermal imaging. So, really, I am going to open up the questions, but I want you to leave with these a couple of thoughts. One, technology is not the end goal. Implementing technology for the sake of technology isn't going to help you. When we visit the question of which of these best for you, consider where have you had the most injuries. Some of these focus on the lower back. Some of these focus on overhead work. Some of these noise levels. Whatever it is, focus on where you're currently having problems. A lot of times there's someone, typically the loudest person in the room, but somebody on a management team that goes, yeah, but I'm really concerned about this. And it's true. It is a very severe thing that can happen, causing serious injury, death, fatalities, and it needs to be addressed in the safety program. I would not start addressing it through technology. When you are trying to get adoption and you are trying to sell it to, whether it's for budget reasons or the employees using it, something that is being dealt with on the front lines consistently is the place to start. And just to kind of give you an example, one of the accounts I work with, a few years ago, they had a horrible, horrible auto record. I'm not going to ask for a raise of hands if anybody's like that. And to be completely frank, my company wasn't going to insure them anymore. We said, no, thank you. We're tired of being so unprofitable. They came back to us and said, hey, we'll put in these smart dash cameras if you give us a chance for one more year of insurance. We went back and forth and we said, all right. When these showed up in the driver's cabs, they were mad. They didn't want Big Brother. It was only an outward-facing camera. It wasn't even looking at the driver, but they were mad about Big Brother. They didn't want anything to do with this. They all threatened to quit. Fortunately or unfortunately, whatever way we want to look at this, within 2 weeks, they have a very large fleet of heavy trucks. They had another vehicle, small sedan, from the right lane make a left-hand turn in front of them, and they creamed them. And it was going to be a big claim. The driver of the sedan claimed that this driver came into her lane and hit her. Because of the dash camera, we were able to show, no, that's not the case at all. That driver cut in front. We were not at fault. Now, we are having the exact opposite problem of they buy a new truck and the driver goes, I'm not getting in that truck until you put a camera in it. And they're actually refusing to drive without it. So if you can get a couple of actual tangible wins, adoption goes through the roof. Saying, man, I'm worried about something that's never occurred, but you have to use this thing every single day. You're going to spend, some of these technologies are very cheap, some are not. You're going to spend money on it and you're going to see a $0 return on investment because they're not going to put the wearable on their belt. They're not going to leave the camera in their truck. They're not going to make the adjustments required. But if you can show them, hey, you wear this, clip it on your belt, and you will start seeing the wins. And the best laid plans, so really when we start talking about employee adoption, best laid plans is only making the employee use the technology should do the rest at solving the problem. So for instance, the basic clip it on your belt, those are very effective because they create competition. So me, Brandon, work at the same warehousing operation. Every morning I pick up device 26, he picks up device 27, we put it on, we go work. We come back, at the end of the day, we put it back in a charging station. And I look up at the little screen and it says, device 26, Ryan Anderson, scored a score of 82. Okay, I could do a little better tomorrow, but I don't really care. Until Brandon comes in right behind me, plugs his device in, it goes, device 27, Brandon, scored 94. That guy sucks. How did he beat me? And you actually see these workers standing there at the end of the day, arguing and competing over these scores, which they don't result in a bonus. But they're sitting here competing, just going, man, tomorrow I'm going to get you. And what they're actually saying is, tomorrow I'm going to be safer than you. So a lot of these things, you can tie these to incentives. We see that a lot with like the driving cameras. Every quarter we give away a small gift card. You win one of the small gift cards at the end of the year, your name's entered in a drawing for a significant gift card, those sorts of things. Those all spur interest and motivation to use the product But the actual improvement of safety, it should solve the problem that you are dealing with on its own. Management should not have to be hand-holding this to finally solve the issue. So technology should be taking something off of management. It should be moving the issue forward. The only thing management should be adding on their plate is the enforcement of the use and accountability of that technology. So I have spent plenty of time talking. Do we have any questions? We are going to transition into a demo time of 2 of the products. But any questions on one of these or another technology?
So back to that legalized marijuana.
Yeah.
The testing, what type of testing do you guys, or is available for that to see if they're under the influence? You had 2 devices that I didn't track.
Yeah, so the question's back to legalized marijuana and how testing. So currently, drug testing, there is no good drug testing method to see if you are under the influence. US DOT dictates a urine drug test. If you're US DOT regulated, never ever change that, stay in those guidelines. If you have a contract, maybe federal government, saying you will use this drug test, do not change it, stay under those guidelines. However, if you have flexibility on your own drug testing program, you need to be using oral swab. It gets away from it's in your system for 30 days. It's bringing it down. It says 36 hours. Realistically, it's about 20 hours. Is somebody stoned for a full 20 hours? No. But you know what? If you're acting squirrely and you made me suspicious, and you pop on an oral swab, I'm pretty confident you're under the influence. So it's giving you a little better leg to stand on, a little more accurate results. But to get down to the actual, are you under the influence? Drug testing is just not there yet. There are 2 companies out there that claim they found it, one out of Phoenix and one out of Canada. They're claiming they have the roadside breathalyzer test. If they actually vet out and it's true, let's face it, this goes legalized overnight. However, we're still in a place where that's not validated yet. So how do employers deal with it in the interim? That app-based, based on reaction times, is the best solution we found thus far. So I will say, I haven't tested this with marijuana, but I will say I've tried to convince my wife that I was doing some company research and had a couple of beers in the middle of the day and pulled the app up, and I passed this thing no problem. Never had it, other than a few times I've demonstrated to clients and I tried to hold a conversation while doing it. It did fail me there. Other than that, when I'm just focused on it, never failed it. So I had 2 beers, would have said I am fine to drive. I feel fine. It failed me. So I was like, that's pretty slick. So I went the next morning, I left my phone right by my bed, and before I got out of bed, I rolled over, grabbed my phone, looked at it, tried to pass it, failed me. Got up, got moving around. Within 15 minutes, my brain was awake. I passed it no problem. So although I personally have not tested with marijuana, I'm confident just from those sorts of tests that if you are under the influence and it's impacting your reaction times in any way, shape, or form, it's going to catch it. So yeah, that is the best solution we have at the moment that we've personally found. It's that app-based electronic fit for duty testing is kind of the full, long, lengthy safety nerd answer to that. Good question.
Are they implementing that like in post-accident investigations or?
So post-accident investigations get a little tougher because we need a baseline. You have to have done it 10 times up front. So if this is, I'm only doing this at post-accident, it's a little tougher. So you do need to have a baseline up front. And then this is it is good for post-accident. However, if we're only using it at post-accident, most employees aren't going to trust it. When they show up every single day, so when we can always talk about adoption afterwards at separate conversations if you want to, but when we roll out these sorts of things, we recommend the first 30 days, you're just doing it and seeing if you can pass. I'm not sending you home. and they show up and they do it and they never fail, and they go, okay, okay. There's going to be fear right out of the gate of going, man, I'm not going to be able to feed my family because you're just going to send me home every day. After 30 days, they're going to realize, no, I can trust this. However, if we're only using it in post-accident, I haven't done this since I went through HR orientation, and now you're going to tell me if I'm getting fired and written up based on this thing? I don't trust it. So I would recommend daily use on this. I particularly like it for remote employees. Maybe you're a service guy you don't see every day. Maybe you're a lowboy driver who comes in at 3, 4 in the morning and you don't see, you can't put eyes on. Or across all safety sensitive positions, daily basis, and then you can add on post-accident as another layer if you want to. So great question. Yeah, Bert.
I just had a question about this app. Is there an app that I can download right now and try it out? And also, are these employees taking this on their own phone or a standalone device?
Yeah, great question. So back to the fit for duty testing. There are a few apps out there. AlertMeter is the one that I'm most familiar with, and we've piloted. They will give management teams a free trial of it. It's usually, I forget if it's 30 days or something like that, but you can reach out to them. If you sit through their 30-minute demo, they'll say, hey, download it. We'll give you the login. It'll be good for so long, and you can try it out. What was the back half of that question?
Are they taking this app on their own phone?
Oh,
or are
yeah.
they doing it like in front of HR on a...
Great question. So the other question was, is the app going on personal phones? And I have clients that it is on the employee's personal phone. Typically, it's the lowboy driver who uses his cell phone for work. That's how he gets his dispatching calls, that sort of thing. So he's getting $25, $50 a month for cell phone credit. But legally, you can have him downloading it either way. When it's a fixed location, when they're coming into the manufacturing plant, the warehousing distribution center, typically I see like the iPad or tablet there by the time clock, and you would have an employee PIN number. So you go 1146, I know that's Brandon, and it sets up Brandon's baseline, and then he would go test it that way. So it can be off the employee's device, it can be off a company-issued cell phone device, or it can be one device that everybody's using. So either way it works. So if you want to hang out, if people need to get going on their day, I'm sure everybody has plenty to do, by all means head on out, but we are going to do a quick demo of the video-based ergonomics over here. And then it'll take me about 2-3 minutes to get it set up over here, but there will also be virtual reality demo over here that you can either watch, or if somebody's brave enough, I'll actually let you get in and fall and see if you can live. So we'll be hanging out. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have, or chat about anything that you've run into with technology, but we appreciate you coming out today. We appreciate the questions and the feedback, and we will be talking to you soon.